Hello, I'm really honored to do this toe reading for you today. So, just a little bit about your toes. So, your right toes, the foot toes on your right foot, represent how you're presenting to the world and your relationship with the outside world. And your left foot is your internal self, your connection with source, and your relationship with self. And so when we look at these toes, just keep that in mind. So when I'm looking at your toes, the very first message that I'm getting has to do with your first toes and the space between your first and second toes. So just for context, look at both toes and you can see that on the right side, that right toe is pointing a lot more towards the pinky than the left toe. And that big right toe is about your life path. And so if we look at where it's coming up from the foot, the inside of the foot and up, and then about at that first knuckle is when it starts to point to the pinky toe or even leaning on that second toe. So this tells me that there's something about your life path that isn't quite resonating. Perhaps you're not sure what your life path is at this point in your life. You've been through some transitions. Um, Perhaps there's things that you wish you would have done or that you desire to do. So just sink into that question. Sit with that question. What is it that this toe is communicating to me, for me specifically, about my life path? This is something that is not recent, but it is in this second, in the last 20 years. And the reason why I say that is because if you look, everything goes straight, straight, straight until that knuckle, and then it starts to move. But it's not just a straight toe and then the nail is leaning, which would indicate something more recent, but it's from the knuckle. And so these questions about your life path. And here's a tip, just asking what and where questions. What is this toe communicating to me? What is the message here? What is my next step, etc.? And then where questions. Where can I go to get the resources that I need? Or where is the answer to the question here? Or where do I need to look? So, what and where questions. The how and the why are taken care of by the divine. So, we just need to be worried about the what and the where, and the how and the why will be taken care of in a way that honestly we can't even make up, because it'll just be so magical, the way that these things come into us when we are open to receiving them and we've asked the what and where questions. Now let's talk about the left big toe. When we look at this toe, there's some differences. So the first difference is you've got that protrusion on the inside of your toe. Maybe it's a bunion. It's kind of hard to tell from this picture, but whatever. There's a large protrusion or larger protrusion on the inside of that left foot, and then the toe comes up straight, 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 and comes on down. There's a nice big space between your first and second toes. So that protrusion on the inside of the left foot, when we have those, it indicates that um, we have the weight of the world on our shoulders. We bend over backwards for others. We sometimes compromise ourselves to keep other people comfortable. We'll talk more about this as we go through the rest of your toes, specifically those action toes, but sink into that a little bit and just see where you are not showing up or not communicating or not taking actions that you need or want to do because you want to keep other people comfortable, because you want to keep the peace. Keep the peace is a phrase that I keep coming back to when I look at the toes. You want to keep the peace. You want to keep the peace, even at the expense of yourself. So, how's that showing up? And how is that working for you? Um, so, then we come up and your spirit path toe there, really nice and straight. The nail is straight, looking up. You're optimistic about your spiritual life. And that's really, really good. When we look at it also, so if this was your toe, it's leaning just a little bit. So I'm going to use my left finger. So if this is your toe, it's leaning just a little bit so that this outside part is what's getting most of the contact with the earth. And this left the inside part there, the part that's closest to the rest of your toes is not as grounded. So just focusing on grounding through that entire foot. That's a very, very healthy toe. So if you just focus on putting some weight down on the whole toe so that the whole toe is in contact with the earth. That's really important because this is our spirit toe. And so we do want to keep it grounded. Um, Now let's talk about that space between your first and second toes. And we're going to talk about the left side first. So that space between your first and second toes, that is your leadership toe. I call it the queen's toe because it's a sign of leadership, especially how it's got that squareness in the bottom. And so you are absolutely a leader in life, a leader in spirit, and a leader in your soul. Like this is who you are. You are a leader. And so that space, and you are open to receiving messages from source, messages from the universe, messages from God coming down through that open channel of intuition into you. And so when we look at that and contrast that with what we have going on the right foot. So on the right foot, we have that toe leaning into the second toe, cutting off intuition. So the question would be, what is your intuition telling you? What is your relationship with your intuition? Do you second guess yourself a lot? Because in that closing off of that, so imagine if that toe was straight, that nice space that would be there between those two toes on your right foot. I'm going to talk about manual manipulation of these toes in just a little bit, but just as we are even speaking, I can feel the energy shifting. And that's the beautiful thing about the toe reading is the energy starts to shift right away. The toe reading is like shining a flashlight on in the dark. And it starts to take care of the dark right away just because we're shining a flashlight on it. Sometimes we need to know what it is so that we can learn from it. And sometimes we just don't. Sometimes we can just release it. It's ready to be let go. So that's that, but really focusing in on opening that up so that you are on your life path and that you're not cutting off your access to your intuition. Okay, your second toes, these are your self expression and communication toes. So they're expression because the way we express ourselves is communication. And so on your right foot, there is there's some emptiness there. There's some things that you want to say that you are not saying. And I think that this has to do with keeping the peace, that protrusion on the other foot. Uh, and you are a good communicator. Communication is a very high value to you. You've got a nice sized nail on that. That toe is straight, it is straightforward. And so, just, you know, where are the places that expressing yourself and communicating with more clarity and more um, strength would serve you? On the left foot, when we look at that communication toe, it's slightly turned. You can see the difference between the two. So it's slightly turned, looking at that life path or the spirit path toe on the left foot. So this would be an opportunity to ask yourself the question, what am I not communicating? What is in my highest and for my highest and best good to communicate? And this is specifically how you are thinking, talking, expressing to yourself. So, what is it that you're saying to yourself? What is your internal dialogue that you've got going on? Those would be questions to ask that toe, and that toe is asking you to be aware of. That's the message of that turning of that toe. Your action toes. So your action toes are very, very flexible. I'm going to guess that you are an extremely adaptable person. You adapt to situations. If you get put somewhere, you will think of a way to navigate through whatever situation that you're in. And this is obviously a superpower. This ability to be flexible, this ability to be adaptable, this ability to be flexible and to really fit in with a variety of people is an absolute superpower. The shadow side of it is that sometimes we're so good at adapting that we don't even realize when there's something that's not okay because we're just so good at navigating it. We're just so good at adapting to it. And so these toes are asking you to ask yourself, what are some areas in my life that I have adapted to that actually aren't working for me, that are not what I want to have in my space at all, and are not places where I want to be adapting. Indeed, they are places where I actually want to be saying, no, this doesn't work for me. And so just look at where that is and see if that superpower of being adaptable, if the shadow side of that is showing up for you. Um, You are a person of action. Make sure you take action. Make sure you are a person of your word, that your words and your deeds match up. And on the right foot, that action toe is leaning a little bit into the communication toe. It's a very, very close partnership there. It is vital that you walk your walk and talk your talk, and that your words and your deeds are strongly resonant together. And yeah, ask that question. Where in your life are you adapting when what really needs to happen is that whatever that situation is that it needs to stop? And this ties into that big toe in your leaning, um, you're bending over backwards, you're compromising yourself to keep the peace. So another question is, where am I subjugating myself? Where am I subordinating? And especially, where am I subordinating where you have resentment around it, whether that's conscious or unconscious? Keep the peace, keep the peace. That's the thing that keeps going through my head for you. Keep the peace, keep the peace. It's better to keep the peace. Peace is important, but not at the expense of yourself. That's not peace. That's peace for everyone else, but not peace for you. So consider that. I call it changing the dance. So, with all the people and situations in your life, you are doing a dance. Okay. And if you've ever watched ballroom dancers, professional ballroom dancers, I mean, literally the slightest change of pressure indicates what they're going to do next. Just a look of the eye. And that's just how it is in all the situations in our life. And so we've been dancing this dance with people. And when you want to change the dance, it makes people uncomfortable. And your toes are telling me that there's dances that you want to change. So, what are those dances that you want to change? And are you willing? Because we have willing and we have wanting. So, the first question is are you willing to make those changes so that you can ultimately be more comfortable, ultimately evolve and become more self actualized, even if it makes other people uncomfortable? So, think about if you were doing the country swing and everybody was doing the country swing and the music was for the country swing, and then you decide that you want to do the tango and you start doing that. It's uncomfortable for you because the country swing music is still playing and everybody's doing the country swing, and uh is like, what are you doing? Come back to this. We're comfortable with you in this dance, and you are too, because you're learning a new dance, you're learning this tango, and it is a little bit uncomfortable. But think about the power that gives you, that empowers others. So when you know how to dance these two dances, it gives you choice, it gives you options. And who knows if there's not other people that are in this analogy doing the country swing and they see you doing the tango and it empowers and liberates them. And see, then the beautiful thing is you've got choice. You can do the country swing if that's what feels good to you at that time and if it's the right thing for you, or you can do the tango. And so what that does, it gives you choice, it gives you options. So where in your life is it time for you to change the dance? Let's move on to these relationship toes. So, with your relationship toes, again, I can tell that you've done a lot of work on yourself, and that work has moved back through generations. And so, congratulations. That's really, really good. I really like how these toes are straightforward, nails are up. You really are like you're kind of you keep getting up. When you fall down, you get back up. When you fall down, you still have hope. Hope. I was gonna say optimism. I think that that's true, but hope is a word that's resonating more. Is you have hope. You have hope, and that probably has a lot to do with that spirit toe that you have there. Uh, that is just straightforward. You have hope. Keep that hope always. Um, with these relationship toes, I'm not seeing anything in there that is super concerning. I am at the end going to recommend some manual massage of those just to help work out energy. Our relationship toes and the next toes, those baby toes, they carry a lot of generational stuff in them. And so well done for doing some work already. Um, And that's all I have right now about those relationship toes. Let's move to your pinky toes. So on your right side, your right toe, that is your trust and prosperity toe. And on your left side, that is your trust toe. And so when I look at that pinky toe on your left foot, uh, I think that you have a healthy level of trust. I think that you trust yourself. And so even when people prove to be untrustworthy, you are strong and you can overcome that disappointment of people showing that they are not trustworthy. I think that that's a great toe. It's a healthy toe from this image, and we can discuss this more when we have our one-on-one. But healthy level of trust. Looking to the future, definitely. Oftentimes they are doing that. On your right foot, you can see that there's a lot more blocked energy in that little toe. So, this is our trust and prosperity toe. And so, what I'm seeing there are some questions of worthiness. Do you feel worthy to receive prosperity? What is your definition of prosperity? Does your prosperity depend on someone other than you and your source? I'm going to invite you to just close your eyes for a minute and just imagine where in your body is prosperity. And if there were a cord of some kind from this center of your prosperity in your body, where is it coming from and what is it going to? Is it going to another person? Is it going to a bank? Is it going to a job? Is it going to God? Where is this cord going to and where is it coming from your body? And then I just invite you to, if it's not in your heart center, just allow it to move to your heart center. And that cord, it goes to source, to God. The divine is our source of prosperity. And the divine is waiting to give you all the things that fit within your definition of prosperity. So just think about that and ponder on that. You do, especially on the right foot, on the right foot, have a little bit of a sixth toe. It's like 5.5 toes. So that little bump on the outside, that is called the sixth toe. And you do have a small one, and I did notice that it is a message from your toes. You have a global perspective. You have the ability to make global impact. And I think as you discover more about your self-expression and your communication, that you're going to see that ripple out. Maybe you already have, but you have the potential with all that leadership to make a global impact. That's beautiful. When you are looking at your toes, like I said before, the energy is already starting to shift. If you were to take a picture and send it to me in a couple of weeks, your toes would have already started to make subtle shifts. A couple of shifts to really look for is a little bit more of a straightening out of that first toe on the right foot, and on the left foot, just a little bit more equal distribution of weight across the bottom of that toe. I think that as you sink into what are the things that aren't working for you and where do you need to change the dance, and what situations have you adapted to so well that really are not serving you? Where are you just keeping the peace at the expense of yourself? You're going to see some changes in that third toe, that action toe. You're going to see that start to take place. And the other changes will come too, but I think that those are the places where you're going to see them most readily. Now, you can use affirmations and questions as you do manual manipulation also. So, with those big toes on the right foot, kind of push in on the side knuckle, right about here with one of your like your left fingers, and then over here push against the top of that toe. So you're just straightening it out, just pulling it away very gently and straightening it up. And you can be asking yourself questions like, what's my life path, and where do I go to learn more, and what can I do, say, think, or be to be more aligned with my life path while you're gently doing that manual manipulation. On your left, same thing, push down and in. So down on the side of your foot and in. So pushing out a little bit while you push against this. So it's going to be just almost the opposite and down to that protrusion. So again, just doing the same thing. Where am I bending over backwards? Where am I compromising myself to keep the peace? And then this big toe here, just grounding that into the earth for even more access to spiritual downloads. This little toe here, just gently twist it. Just gently twist it, asking, what am I here to communicate? What am I not communicating to myself? Or what am I communicating that it's time to make a change on? It's just a gentle twist. Your action toes, you can just rub like this between your thumb and your forefinger. And again, just asking yourself some of the questions that I talked about earlier, giving yourself a mantra like, I know who I am and what I want and what works for me and what doesn't. And I know how to stand up for myself or whatever works for you with that. And um, just taking a stand, getting that toe. That's the other thing with those toes. Really focus on getting those toes grounded. Those are our fire toes. So they can really kind of like fire um, can get really, really big. And because you are a person of action, there's big fire there. So just get that grounded a little bit. Coals, hot coals are actually a lot more effective for most things than a big blazing bonfire. Um, Then with your relationship toes, just a gentle rub on those relationship toes to just release any residual energy, releasing through all generations of time, releasing all the ancestral stuff, just a gentle rub of those toes. And then you can do this to both of your pinky toes, but especially this one on the right side. Just rub that and, just a simple mantra, I am worthy. I am worthy. The question, what does prosperity mean to me? and take care of your toes. I'm glad that you said that you'd done, kind of a peel to just take care of your toes. Your toes are beautiful. They're sharing important messages with you. And I can't wait to talk with you more when we have our one-on-one session. Thank you.